It's been 6 months since I got the newest top-of-the-line Kindle Scribe, the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft, the first ever color Kindle in this size. But starting at $630 US, one thing it certainly is not is cheap. So is the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft worth the money, or would you be better off spending less on a different Kindle or going with a competitor like Remarkable or Supernote? Well, I'll answer all of those questions, but first, let's start off with the one you probably already have in your head. How good is the color? I'd say it's just okay. The colors on this display are muted and can look a little bit too close to one another, a problem I ran into a good bit when color coding my shot list. Blue and green look pretty close to one another with the highlighter. You can also see the filter used to create the colors if you get close up to the display. But given this is a tablet that you generally just hold farther away from your face than something like the Kindle Paperwhite, I don't think that's a deal breaker, but you can kind of see that Amazon did make some trade-offs with this display technology. You get better responsiveness and less of that ghosting refresh effect that you see on other devices like my Remarkable Paper Pro, but at the cost of color saturation. If you look at the orange on the Kindle Colorsoft, it just looks kinda flat. But not all the colors look kind of blah. Blue and yellow highlights, for example, look pretty solid. Now, if you're thinking getting a Colorsoft version of your Kindle will immediately upgrade your reading experience and everything's going to be in color, in my experience, that has not actually been true. For Kindle books with images, the color version of those images is not always included in the book file. The John Williams biography I've been reading recently has images, some of which I know were originally shot in color, but they show up in black and white on the Kindle Scribe. Same thing for other books I've read, while book covers, interestingly, are typically all in color and look great. So there is a chance that if you buy this and then go back to your books with images, that not all of them are going to be color images. So unless you just read comics or graphic novels, I don't think this device is worth getting just for the color upgrade alone if you read books other than those two categories generally. That said, the Colorsoft Scribe does have a lot going for it, and one of the biggest strengths is something every Kindle Scribe has that the competition doesn't. Your books and your notes are all in one device. You don't have to juggle having a digital e-reader and then another device for note-taking, and Amazon's family sharing feature is still one of the most underrated aspects of the Kindle ecosystem. You can easily share books with a spouse or kids library without buying an additional copy. That's genuinely useful. Another standout feature is the writing experience, which carries over the best parts of the previous Kindle Scribes. The felt tip in the pen is still great, and the improved eraser they debuted with the last Kindle generation returns here as well. It feels more like a felt pen on paper than a pencil, which is how I describe the current generation of Remarkable devices. Another thing that sets the premium pen apart from others is it doesn't have a battery, so you never need to charge it. And it does roll farther on a smooth surface than the previous generation, by quite a bit, though it is weighted in a way where it does try to slow down a bit at least. Another design with books and notes that I really like and find useful is the shortcut back to your most recent notebook or book along the bottom shelf, which makes it easy to dive right back into a notebook you were working on. Another one of my favorite writing features is the multiple color switcher that they implemented with the Colorsoft. Each pen tool shortcut has 2 color slots that you can change, making it really fast to switch back and forth between pens and colors. Another tool that also works really well is the selection tool, and here there is also a new Colorsoft specific addition. You can change your selection's color. The last writing tool I found really useful is the ability to drag out shapes, which is great if you're making diagrams, business process maps, etc. Another thing that's really impressed me with the Colorsoft is the refresh speed. Navigation, adjusting brightness, even loading web pages, an activity that almost never worked on any previous Kindle I owned, well, now that surprisingly works, though you'll probably still never use it. But the point here is everything feels faster and snappier than my previous Kindle Scribe. The reading experience is also strong. You get annotation tools right in the text, different color highlights using these same pen tools from the notebooks, and a gallery view that lets you see 9-page previews at once, which is really useful for jumping around in a book to find that specific page that you're looking for. And then, of course, your other Kindle features like bookmarks, search, the Wikipedia integration, as well as dictionary, X-ray, which is especially important for George R.R. Martin titles, which can help you with questions like, wait, which Aegon Targaryen is this again? And if you're picking up a book again, it'll auto-generate recaps for you to refresh your memory of what's happened. Now, have I found myself using the book highlights and annotations as much? Yes and no. I'll definitely use the handwritten annotations for some of my books, like my book on writing, because there are examples and things you'd want to fill out or ideas that I have about my own writing and want to just jot down right there in the margins to help me solidify my thinking. But because I read on both my Scribe and Kindle Paperwhite, which I've also reviewed, link to that review here, I mainly just stick to highlights, underlines, and notes since those sync across Kindle devices. Handwritten annotations don't even show up on the Paperwhite or other smaller Kindles. So what else has been great about this Kindle? Well, as you'd expect from any Kindle, thanks to that e-ink display, the battery life is excellent. Amazon rates this for 8 weeks on a single charge with light use, which lines up with exactly my experience of about 2 months on a charge, or a bit more if you're not using it every day. Though that'll of course drop if you're doing a lot of heavy note-taking during the day. Design-wise, Amazon brought back the black bezels, which I think was the right call compared to the weird white border on the previous Scribe. That always bothered me because the Kindle displays are always quite a bit dimmer than the Remarkable devices, and seeing the white border around it made that way more clear. The build quality for a $630 device overall does feel premium, especially with this metal back. I also really like the new executive folio cover that they made for this. It has a flap that snaps on easily and actually keeps the pen in place. The last thing that stood out with the Scribe Colorsoft is the setup experience. It's really fast, especially if you order the device via Amazon and check the simple setup option. Doing that will instantly link your device to your Amazon account and give the device your Wi-Fi network info, making setup even faster and something the competition definitely doesn't match. So that's all of the good stuff. Now let's talk about some downsides. First and most obvious, price. $630 is a lot to ask for a note-taking e-reader, and it gets worse when you look at the accessories. The old Scribe covers used to start at $59 for a fabric folio. With this generation, the entry point is $89 for a plant-based leather cover, and then the premium executive leather folio, that's $139. Ouch. And while the tablet and the case genuinely feel premium, the premium pen itself, not as much. With this finish, it just feels kind of plasticky rather than a nice refined pen tool. Another downside I ran into is with the auto brightness. It can just go haywire when you're writing near the top of the screen, and this happened enough times that I just turned that feature off entirely. The display is also less reflective than on competing devices, so you'll often find yourself turning the backlight on, and when you do, it can feel more like you're writing on a screen than on paper, which is really apparent when I have the Colorsoft sitting next to my Remarkable Paper Pure I've also been testing. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you want to see the full review of that device out later this year. The screen gap between the glass and the display is also worse than what Remarkable is doing, though it does look a bit better than the previous Kindle Scribes I've used. And while I'm on the subject of the Remarkable, I still think that company, and Supernote as well, they do a better job with the actual note-taking software. Things like infinite scroll on Remarkable, so you can keep writing on a single page without hitting the bottom. They have better tap to undo and redo shortcuts, a 2-finger slide gesture to write in the margin, plus layers. None of that is on the Scribe. You also can't add to your notes from the desktop or mobile Kindle app. It's basically a read-only experience if you're not on your Scribe. Oh, and another small downside that I still really have not gotten used to 6 months later with this, they put the power button here next to the pen, which on a certain level, I understand why they did that, right? You're going to grab the pen. You can easily just power it on there. If you're using the cover all the time and just opening up the cover, it automatically turns on anyway. So not a big deal. But if you have it just out on your desk a lot like I do, it's just so inconsistent from where the power button typically is on devices of this size, like iPads, other e-writing devices, that it kind of drives me nuts. Another downside is actually Amazon's books ecosystem. The digital rights management, or DRM, situation is just a mess. It should be possible to protect copyright holders while still letting users move digital books that they paid for to a different e-reading device. But still, in 2026, if you buy a book on Amazon, you are basically only going to be able to read it on an Amazon e-reader. Now, people get around this issue by using third-party software to remove the DRM and then convert the ebook file into a format other e-readers can read. But then you're stripping away the DRM, which is illegal under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, otherwise known as the DMCA, here in the United States. And this is also illegal in other countries and regions as well. So basically, if you buy ebooks from Amazon, remember, you're buying a license to read that book. You don't actually own it. And then you can't easily move that ebook file to another e-reader legally unless it's an e-reader made by Amazon. So keeping all of that in mind, is the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft worth it? If you're an illustrator or artist who wants to draw on a Kindle, I think most of those people will prefer having the Colorsoft version, even if the color saturation isn't perfect. If you're a comic book reader or a graphic novel reader who's already tied into the Amazon ecosystem, yeah, the Colorsoft experience is definitely better than black and white. But I think the question for those readers is, does this experience surpass reading comics and graphic novels on an iPad? One, it depends on where you're reading, so on the beach in direct sunlight, yeah, the Colorsoft will likely still win. Plus, it has better battery life. But if you're mainly planning to read comics and graphic novels indoors, for the money, the iPad is just going to look way better. But if you don't care about the color, you like the idea of a larger Kindle size, you can find refurbished last-gen models on sale for around $300 US, which is what I'd recommend going for. And speaking of prices, you can see the current prices for all the Kindle versions I mentioned, plus their competitors, in the blog post for this video. The link to that is here and in the description and pinned comment. And to see all of the products I recommend, plus browse products that are currently on sale, check out our shop page at 6monthlater.net/shop. So those have been my thoughts on the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft 6 months later, but let me know what you think in the comments. Would you buy one? Do you think the color is actually worth it? Is it too expensive? Would you prefer Remarkable or Supernote? Let me know. And if you want to see more of my Kindle coverage, including the latest gen Paperwhite, you can click here to get to those videos, or click here for my reviews of other e-ink note takers like the Remarkable Paper Pro and Paper Pure. And make sure you're following us at 6monthlater.net for all of the latest updates on the tech that we cover. For 6 Months Later, I'm Josh Tedder, and if you made it all the way to the end, let me know by commenting $630! Thanks for watching.